Hi folks, it's Mike Murphy, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a non-root sudo user on your Hostinger virtual private server, which is one of the first things that you can do to really secure your VPS. When you first set up your Hostinger VPS, the default username that is automatically set up for you is root, R-O-O-T. Root is the super user on the VPS. When you are signed in as the root user, well, you can do anything you want on the VPS. You are the boss. What I'm going to show you how to do today is create a new username so you don't have to sign in with root. You can sign in with a non-root username, and this new username can be anything you want. Well, when we create our new non-root custom username, we want boss privileges too. We don't want to have to go to root every time we want to do something on our VPS. So to give our new username boss privileges, what we're going to do is add it to what is called a sudo group. S-U-D-O. Now it's tempting to call it sudo, but it's actually pronounced sudo. That's because sudo stands for super user do. And sudo just means that you can take a normal user account and give it temporary admin privileges, or take a username and give it those boss or CEO privileges so you can do things on your VPS like the root user can by default. Instead of logging in as the powerful root user all the time, the best practice and the security standards say log in as a new user or normal user, but give it sudo privileges. Think of root like the master key to a building, or the master keys to your VPS. Root can open up all of the doors. And think of sudo user. So the new username that we're creating today, we're adding it to the sudo group. That way, our new username can borrow the master key from root anytime it needs it. And you might be wondering, is this overkill? Are we just being paranoid, or is this some kind of tech nerd thing about security? Do we really have to create a new username? I mean, what's the big deal if we sign in with root all the time? I mean, root, we have full access to everything. Isn't that what we want when we sign into our VPS? The short answer is yes. It is absolutely worth the effort to create a new non-root username like we are doing in this tutorial. And not only is it worth the effort, it is actually one of the first things that you should do whenever you are setting up a new VPS. So here are a couple of reasons why. Number one, it reduces brute force attacks. Every single hacker and all of the bots know that the default username on every single VPS is root. So when they try to break into your VPS, they already know the username is root, so now they just need to guess the password. Well, if you change the username to something other than root, it just makes it harder for them. Now, there are other tools like fail to ban, which also minimize brute force attacks, but that's just one security reason why changing the username from something other than root is beneficial to your security. What if you had multiple administrators that worked on your VPS? Team members, employees, contractors? Well, if everyone used the same root username, if somebody made changes or if somebody screwed up the VPS, you would have no idea who did it. But if everybody had their own username and you gave them sudo privileges so they could make administrative changes when they absolutely had to, well, then you would always be able to have accountability and know who did what. And probably the biggest reason or the justification for creating the new non-root username and not always being signed in as the super user root is just the prevention of accidents. It's a safeguard. When you are signed in as the super user root, there are no guardrails. The VPS is going to do whatever it is that you tell it. It's not going to ask you for any additional permissions because you are the super user. But when you are signed in as a non-root user, there are automatic safeguards in place. You'll be able to do all the basic terminal commands, ls, pwd, and it's not going to ask you for additional permissions. But if you run a command that's serious, that might change the VPS, it's going to say, wait a minute, pal, this is a serious operation. Only the root or the super user should be able to do this. It's going to get your attention and make you say, wait a minute, do I actually want to run that command? And if you absolutely do want to run the command, well, it's going to require an extra step. You have to prove that you have sudo privileges. So in order to run the command, you're going to have to put sudo first, and then you enter the command. Whereas the root never has to use sudo because they're the super user. Here is how to add a new non-root username to your Hostinger VPS. Sign into your VPS dashboard, click on Terminal in the top right. Now you should see at the command line root, but just to confirm it, a handy little thing to see what user that you're currently signed into, and we're going to use this later. You're going to type in whoami, no spaces, just WHOAMI, tap return, and that is going to tell you what username that you're currently signed into, and it should be root. As soon as you add the new user, you're going to be prompted to enter the password that you want to use to sign in with that username. So before you get started, I would recommend that you create the password in advance that you plan on using with your new username and just save it in your password manager like 1Password. Here we go. You're signed into your VPS dashboard. You're going to launch the terminal by clicking the terminal button in the top right corner. I'm just going to type clear so it's easy to see. We're going to type who am I and just confirm that you're signed in as the root user. And now we're going to add the new user. So just think of what name that you want to use. Instead of doing root at, it is going to be your username. So I'm just going to add my name. To do that, I'm going to do add user space. And now you're going to enter the username that you want to use. So for me, Mike Murphy, I know that when I tap return that I'm going to need to enter my password. So I'm just going to go into 1Password and copy the password that I created to my clipboard. Now I'm going to tap return. And just a heads up here, when you paste in the new password, or even if you try to type it in, it looks like nothing gets entered, but don't worry, it does get entered. So I'm going to paste in the new password, Command V. Again, it looks like nothing happened, but tap return. You're then going to be prompted to retype the password. So I'm just going to paste it in again. If I tap return, you see the password was updated successfully. And if there was a mismatch, it's going to tell you. So if you think you did it wrong the first time, you try to do it again, it'll give you a mismatch error. And if everything matched, it's going to tell you that it was updated successfully. Now we're going to get a series of about 5 prompts. These are known as GECOS Information. This is apparently an old Unix thing related to metadata. On your VPS, you can pretty much ignore these. And what we're going to do is just tap the enter or return key and just bypass all of these. So full name, I'm just going to tap return. Room number, return. Work phone, return. Home phone, return. Other, return. That's the end. And now we just need to say, is the information correct? Oh, yes, it's correct. Tap Y, tap return. Now we're going to add the username that we just created to the sudo group. This is going to allow our username to be able to temporarily get admin permissions like root. First, we'll enter usermod. No spaces, so usermod. That's just saying we want to modify the new user that we just created. Tap the spacebar, and now we're going to add the flag -A. -A stands for append. This is just a safety flag. It is saying we want to add this user to a group without removing them from any other groups that they may already belong to. No space after the A. We're going to enter a capital G. That is just saying now we need to name the group that we're adding them to. So after the capital G, put a space, and now we're going to give a name to the group. And the name that we're adding this user to is sudo. So sudo. Space after sudo. And now you're going to enter in the username that you just created. So for me, Mike Murphy, no spaces. So that's kind of the magic right here. This is giving our new user the ability to get sudo privileges. You just created a new non-root user and added it to the sudo group. Nice. Now we're going to test and make sure that we can sign into our VPS remotely using SSH with our root. So this is the default super user password root. And then we're going to test and make sure that we can sign in with the new username that we just created. So let's start with root. So this one is the default that was set up on your VPS. So to SSH into your terminal remotely using the terminal or command shell if you're in Windows, you just type SSH space. Now you're going to enter in the username or the root name. So we're going to put ROOT at, and now you're going to enter in the IP address of your VPS. So for me, that is the IP address of this VPS. And if you're not sure what to put here, just sign into your VPS dashboard on the overview tab where it says root access. This is exactly what we just put in the Mac OS terminal. You put the same if you're on Windows in the command shell. I've got one password open because I'm going to be prompted to enter the password for root. So I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard. I'll come up here to the terminal. I'm going to tap return. And now it's prompting me to enter the password again. This is for the root user. So just like we did in the terminal on the VPS, when I paste in the password, it's going to look like nothing happened. Don't worry. So paste and then tap return. And now I am signed in to my VPS remotely using the root username. And if I go down to the command line, I'll type clear just so it's easy for you to see. If I type in that who am I, it should show up that I am the root user. So who am I? Tap return. Sure enough, I am now connected to my VPS using SSH and I am signed in as the root super user. Now let's do the exact same thing, only this time. Instead of signing in as the root user, I'm going to try to sign in or SSH into my VPS remotely using my new username, Mike Murphy. So same thing, SSH space. Enter the username. For me, it's Mike Murphy, no spaces, at, and now I'm going to enter in the IP address of my VPS. I've got one password ready to go, so I'm going to copy the password from Mike Murphy, my sudo user. I'm going to tap return. It's going to prompt me for the password. I'm going to paste. Again, it's not going to look like I did anything. Command V, tap return. How about that? I am now remotely signed into my VPS with the Mike Murphy username, working like a charm. That should look more familiar now that I spaced out the window. Again, I'm going to type out clear. And now I'm going to enter in that who am I? And guess what it's going to say? WHOAMI, tap return. And the username that I'm signed in with is Mike Murphy. Pretty cool, huh? And in case you have never SSH'd into your VPS using the terminal or command shell, which is a great way to do it, by the way, if you want to exit out and get back to your command line so you're back on your local machine, the way you do that, you just type out exit. Now you can see I just logged out on my VPS on my terminal. I'm back to my command line, and I can do the same over here. Exit. And now we'll go back into the VPS terminal. We're back at the VPS terminal where we left off. I'm still signed in as root, and I'm just going to clear out the terminal again, typing clear. So, who am I? Just to confirm, I'm currently signed in as root. To switch users, all you have to do is enter SU for switch user space dash space, and now enter the user that you want to switch to. Mike Murphy, tap return, check out these instructions, which you already know, but you might not realize it. To run a command as an administrator or as the super user root. The way you do that, so when you want those temporary root privileges, so you're the boss, all you need to do is enter sudo before the command that you want to run. So when you're signed in as the root user, you never have to put in sudo because you have all of the privileges. But when you're signed in as a username that you created, if you want the boss privileges, well then all you have to do is just type out sudo first and then you enter the command. Now I'm going to show you something pretty cool. So first let's run who am I, and notice I have the Mike Murphy, so it's going to tell me that I am Mike Murphy. Who am I? Okay, so that's to be expected. Now here's the cool part. So I'm currently signed in as this normal user, Mike Murphy. But if I want to borrow the master keys from the root super user, so I can open up any of the doors in the VPS. So if I want to run a command as the administrator user root, what you do is you enter sudo before the command. So I'm going to type sudo. So this is saying I want to temporarily act as the root user, space, and now I'm going to type in that same whoami. So remember, I want to act as the root. Now what do you think is going to happen? I'll tap return. I'm going to enter in the password for Mike Murphy, not root. Command V, looks like nothing happened, tap return, and check it out. It returned the username root. That is because we put sudo before the command. So when we put sudo before a command, we are telling the terminal or a VPS, we are acting as the root user. We have the highest privileges. So it's basically saying, okay, you ran it as sudo, so I am going to treat you as the root user. Now without putting sudo, if I just type in who am I, since I'm signed in as the Mike Murphy user, when I tap return, notice it returns the correct username. Type sudo space who am I, and I'm going to get root again. If you have a kenai, you may have noticed the $sign. That $sign indicates that we are signed in as a normal user. If I switch users, so su space dash space root, tap return, it's going to prompt me for the root password now because I want to sign in as the root user. Authentication failure. Looks like I put in the wrong password, so I'll give it another try. I'm going to paste in the root password. Okay, so that worked. We are signed in as the root user. And when you see the hashtag, that indicates that you are signed in as root. When you see the $sign, that indicates that you are signed in as a normal user. And the little tilde that you see, that just means that you are in the home directory. So this is saying when the home directory as the root user, this is saying we are in the home directory on the VPS as a normal user. And the normal user in this case is Mike Murphy. I'm going to show you one more example. I'm going to switch users from root back to Mike Murphy. So SU for switch user, space, dash, space, enter your username, Mike Murphy, tap return. So now I'm signed in as Mike Murphy. And I know that. Who am I? And I've got the $sign indicating that I'm no longer signed in as the root user. Let's run a little test. I am going to try to update the Ubuntu operating system packages as the Mike Murphy user. So I have a keyboard shortcut through Raycast to update. So I'll put :ubu for Ubuntu, and that's the full command when you want to update the packages on your VPS. I'm going to tap return. Check it out. Permission denied, permission denied, permission denied. This is an example of those guardrails or the safeguards that are in place when you're signed in as another user that is not root. When you're signed in as root, it is going to do whatever command you enter without question. But since we're signed in as Mike Murphy, it's basically warning us, hey, this is an admin level command. So if I want to grant myself permission or borrow the keys from root, what are we going to do? That's right. We're going to first type in sudo, super user do, space. And now we're going to enter the command we want to run. So this is saying act temporarily like the root admin user. So now I'm going to type in that long command. So I have a little shortcut. I'm going to tap return. And how about that? It is updating the operating system because it thinks I'm the root user. And now I'm back to Mike Murphy. I'll tap clear to clear out the terminal. If I want to switch back to root, I could use the SU for switch user space dash space root, or what I can do is just exit out of this user. So I'm going to do exit, and it should fall back into root. So it logged out Mike Murphy, and now I'm back to the root user. Pretty cool. Recap. When you set up your Hostinger VPS, the default login is root. When you sign in as the root super user, you always have full control of the VPS. You never need to add sudo before a command. And you can do anything on the VPS anytime. Today, we created a non-root user. By default, it is just a normal user. It has limited permissions, so it can't do everything on your VPS. If you try to do something that normally requires admin privileges, it is going to deny you or tell you that you do not have permission to do that. But whenever the new user gets denied or told that it does not have permission, because we added our new user to the group sudo, whenever we want to temporarily become the root user, all we have to do is enter sudo before any command. Is there anything that the root user can do that the sudo user cannot? Not much, but technically yes. A sudo user must prefix commands with sudo, so we already knew that. Here are the restrictions. Sudo user can be restricted in this directory. It can be removed from the sudo group, and a sudo user must authenticate with their password, whereas the root user does not need a password once they're logged in, of course, cannot be restricted by any sudo policies, and cannot be removed from the root access. So a sudo user can be removed from the group. A root user is basically the boss. Do not let those minimal restrictions deter you, because for 99.9% of the things you'll do on the VPS, anything that the root user can do, the sudo user can also do. The only difference with the sudo user, you just need to put sudo before the command. And a final word on the security benefits, or why you should consider creating a non-root sudo user. The benefit is not that the sudo user is weaker or that you have less permissions. The benefit is that you are not always signed in as that super user root where you have maximum privileges all the time. Accidental destructive commands are less likely if you're not always signed in as the root user, because if you enter a command that's serious, the VPS is going to say, wait a minute, you don't have permission to do this, and it's going to make you think twice before you actually put in that sudo user. You're going to double check and say, is this safe if I do that? So as the root user, when you have those maximum privileges, it's easy to screw things up on your VPS. But when you sign in as the sudo user, well, you can have fun. You can have peace of mind knowing that you're not going to screw anything up. If you go too far, you're going to get the access denied, and then you can pull back and say, okay, I'm going to stop here. Another big benefit of creating that non-root user is that once you create that new user and add it to the sudo group, well, you can disable the root login altogether. So it is not possible to even sign in to your VPS using the root user. I am going to show you how to completely disable the root login in a future tutorial. But if you ask any AI chat assistant or do a Google search on how can I secure my VPS, every single checklist is going to tell you one of the first things you should do is create a new non-root user and disable the root login immediately. Disabling the root login altogether. One of the security benefits is it does help minimize brute force attacks. But really one of the big things is so you're not always signed in as that super root user. By disabling root login, it just requires that extra step of entering sudo, preventing you from accidentally putting in commands that you're going to regret or that's going to do something bad to the server. If a hacker or a bot is able to get access to your VPS as the root user, well, that hacker or bot can do anything they want on your VPS. But if the hacker or bot only gets access to the sudo user, well, then they're going to also need to know the password. So it gives that added level of security. Bottom line, what you did today is a great step for adding security to your VPS. Creating the new non-root user with sudo privileges is about reducing risk and increasing your control of your VPS. And that is how you create a new non-root sudo user on your Hostinger virtual private server or VPS. My name is Mike Murphy, your AI handyman. Cheers.